let's talk about the Federal Reserve, shall we?
Okay.
Let's dive into the Federal Reserve. So the Fed came out last week and spoke about Federal Reserve Chief Jerome Powell came out last week to announce that, in fact, he was going to be allowing interest rates to basically remain unchanged for the next year or so. In the meantime, they were seriously eyeing tapering, which of course means pulling back the amount of bond purchasing they're doing to Wall Street, funneling trillions of dollars to Wall Street. They're going to pull back just a little bit on that, and we can prepare for inflation to just be a smooth process. It won't be around very long. Nothing to see here. It's not going to be a big deal. So let me just put this in layman's terms for most people watching right now. That means that you are going to continue to get screwed as Wall Street continues to do fine, because prices of just about everything are going to continue to go up. And as the federal government keeps interest rates artificially low, it creates an artificial economy for the United States. Who gets screwed in this paradigm?
Well, okay, here's another way to put it. So the United States cannot pay for a lot of the things that it needs right now. So, right, it issues debt in the way of like a treasury bond or some kind of bond that has an interest rate that is low, right?
Right.
And so then when it does that, then investors start to make certain money, and then the government somehow takes that money that it gets and funnels it into Wall Street. And when there's a lot of borrowing and a lot of cash moving into these segments, the government and Wall Street, then that puts a lot of money into the economy that is not for us, the people, right? And that creates a rush on and an increase in prices on goods and services. So that means that those of us who are not participating in Wall Street or the government, but are just sort of paying our bills and living our lives, we don't benefit from this sort of bubble above us. And then we have to deal with the inflation that results.
Let me put it another way. The government thinks that big banks are too big to fail, right?
Yes.
So that is never going to happen. We now know that big banks will never fail. So they've artificially kept them in business. Big banks are making money hand over fist.
Yes.
They've been pumping billions of dollars artificially to these banks, printing money, number one, printing money. Mm-hmm. And when they're printing money to funnel it to Wall Street, Wall Street's happy, and Wall Street can then lend it out to you. And what happens is that the value of that dollar that you're now borrowing is lowered. And also the amount of money that you're making at your job is less. So who gets screwed in this entire equation is you. And on a day when we now see this morning, heating bills ready to rocket up through inflation, because that's going to be the next big problem here. Wall Street doesn't care about this, right? Let me know in the chat right now, like how many of you are noticing an increase in your electric bills, your natural gas bills. Mm-hmm. I read a story, this is unbelievable, that natural gas companies in Utah they're going to fine you $1,400 if you switch from natural gas to electric.
Yes, I saw that too. How can that be?
$1,400. They're going to say, hey, you want out of your contract? Hey, screw you, $1,400.
That is crazy.
Yeah, so look at this. After plunging during the pandemic, energy prices have now roared upwards. Natural gas used to heat almost half of the U.S. households, has almost doubled in price since this time last year. The price of crude oil, which deeply affects the 10% of households that rely on heating oil and propane during the winter, has soared to similar levels.
I mean, it's just the government can continue to play monopoly by writing out more money to pump into the economy. But if you're not a bond issuer, if you're not a big bank, if you're not someone who has junk bonds to sell, you don't benefit from that. And you still have to live in the world where prices will come up as a result. And so it's up to us to now wonder, okay, how do I pay for these things when I was used to paying this for them? Now they cost this.
Yeah, in our chat this morning, Michael S. says where to go. He says, I noticed to exchange your propane tank at Walmart is $4 more than it was last week. There you go.
Wow.
Here's just another $4. Derek Ead says, where did Derek's comment go? He noticed that where did he have that there? I missed it.
My electric went up a little bit this month.
The electric went up there. Robin Mitchell says gas is way higher. Groceries are worse. Groceries getting worse.
Yeah.
All of these things going up. And so, in the United States, the winter months account for 50 to 80% of residential fuel consumption. And there's a significant chance, according to this piece, that consumers could face a marked increase in prices for heating, just across the board right now. Again, so the Fed is happy about this. And just look at this. Look at this article in CNBC. Why the taper should be good for the market, according to S&P history. And if you go through this CNBC piece, it basically says that Wall Street will be doing just fine. Wall Street is going to is absolutely going to do just fine. That if history is repeating itself, what we've seen before as the government starts to pull back on bond purchasing, that the market adjusts and we will see maybe a slight dip for a few days, but an absolute surge in prices on Wall Street.
Yet this is still not like, this is a time when we realize everything is more expensive, especially the combustible fossil fuels, but we still can't pass any infrastructure to move to sustainable heating and cooling. It's crazy, right? And because it still falls on the individual, like shell out for the solar panels and that you'll recover the cost in, right? And that's not an investment many people can make.
Yeah, you're asking people to set up solar panels. You're asking people to put a Tesla solar wall in their property, and yet, and they would love to be able to do that.
Right.
But the system is set up to keep people from doing that. The system is set up to allow natural gas companies to have a monopoly in certain areas. It makes it incredibly difficult for these other companies to gain.
And the tax credits for those have expired. Right. Most of them, the federal ones, you still may be able to get some from your state. But what is the point of expiring solar infrastructure tax credits?
Well, and they could, they subsidize gas and oil and other stuff. They could subsidize people. Remember what they used to, like, corporations would pay people to put cell towers on their properties, like it's kind of like that kind of thing. If you want that infrastructure, there should remove the subsidies from gas and oil and subsidize people that put it on their property.
Yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we just saw this, didn't we, in the infrastructure bill, where one big piece of the infrastructure bill was providing electric buses, right? Making sure that the electrification of our transportation system. And then you have people like Joe Manchin saying, and others who are saying, well, if you're going to have incentives in there for electric, we got to have incentives in there for fossil fuel. It's like, no.
That's what we're trying to not do.
We're trying to not do this. Don't you understand?
But how will those companies survive?
To like someone old and stodgy in your family, you're like, no, Uncle Jack, that's what we're trying to not do.
Exactly, Grandpa. No. Is this you got a compost bin? Is this where I throw the stuff? Yes, you put it over there. The recycling goes there, Grandpa, and this goes there.
Not your batteries. Don't throw your batteries in there.
And if you think about like inflation right now from the market perspective, like this is great for Wall Street because that means that people are going to pay more for things.
Yes.
Think about this, right? Who gets screwed in this equation? Prices of groceries go up. You still need to eat, right?
Yes.
Groceries go up. You still need fuel for your car. You still have to pay for this stuff.
Yes.
So guess what? Now Wall Street benefits that inflation gets to run hot. And by the way, Powell last week said that he's probably going to allow inflation to go up to about 3%, right? So that's going to be crushing to so many Americans. And in this CNBC piece, it says, this is hilarious, this piece. It says, Wall Street is probably going to be okay with it. Wall Street will be fine that inflation will run hot for 3% for quite a while. Yeah, you think they're going to be okay with it? They're going to be fine with it because it's going to benefit them and it's going to screw you over.
Well, they're running with the price of raw goods is increasing too, which, I was willing to have a little empathy for until third quarter earnings came out and everyone had a party, right? Everyone made money.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone except Peloton made a profit in the third quarter. So
you get a jet.
Yeah. Okay. That like
Oprah's favorite things. I mean, and this is like this, here's an AFR piece this morning. Inflation gives investors the chance to profit from shares. Inflation is once again the headline. We're going to see 3%, and the Reserve Bank looks to through more volatile prices such as food and energy. But you can benefit if you're an investor. So you can take advantage of poor people by investing in food and energy core areas of the economy. Wall Street.
Okay, so what are some things that everyone can do?
Yes, great
to
question.
help themselves get through this winter? Besides buy less, right? Buy fewer non-essential items for no reason.
Right. Well, if I just look, let's unpack this a little bit from both an investor perspective and from like a family, where am I going to buy my stuff perspective. One thing I would say is look at the companies that are just having, doing killer profits right now, right? Like look at Kellogg's.
Yeah.
The strike among Kellogg's workers is entering its second month now.
Yeah.
They're being forced to work without any days off so they can get highly processed, crappy, sugary foods on store shelves. Kellogg's has made record profits. So if you're a family out there thinking, okay, now I'd be paying more for my cereal. People are being screwed and not paid well at Kellogg's. Maybe I shouldn't buy Kellogg's food. That's one thing you can do. Is
we could do that, yes.
Be more discerning with what you use your dollars for, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is to think about where you should be putting your money right now. If your money is in the U.S. dollar, run for the hills. The U.S. dollar is on a trajectory that is probably, as Neil Howe writes in The Fourth Turning, we are heading into one of the cataclysmic periods of financial history. And if your money is in the U.S. dollar, which is backed by debt and taxes, it's worth virtually nothing, then you need to get your head examined. I would think putting your money into things that actually have value, like gold and silver, precious metals. Silver has utility. It's not just a precious metal, but it's also used in manufacturing and other things. So silver, gold, thinking about cryptocurrency as a store of value, and real estate.
Yeah.
Making sure that your money, is in real estate as the ultimate store of wealth because the government can't control that stuff. The government can't control real estate. The government can't control crypto. The government hates gold and silver.
What do you mean the government can't control real estate? Absolutely they can. They're trying to tax the value in years that it's not even sold now.
Okay, they can try to do that, but it's not going to happen. But they can't actually control the asset itself, which is a hedge against inflation, which has shown historic appreciation over inflation. So my point is that they can try to do what they want for taxing an asset you might hand down to a relative on some estate tax issue, but that didn't pass, and it's not going to pass.
Yes.
So that's not coming out of Congress. So right now, real estate has sustained itself for 4,000 years as a store of value against inflation. So is gold and silver, and crypto is 13 years old. So we're putting a lot of money into crypto, into real estate, and into precious metals, and out of this corrupt government banking system, which serves Wall Street. I mean, those are things to think about. So from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
just
Also,
really
you could
hard
eat your leftovers more often.
I do. I ate my leftovers. We got some chicken yesterday, and I had the chicken.
He did have his roast chicken for leftovers for
I
lunch.
get in trouble for that all the time.
You don't eat your leftovers?
Yeah, and it's just like they sit there, and I'm just like, but I want this today.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God, that
this.
makes me so crazy.
Yeah, she eats her
I'll
leftovers.
yell at you along
But
with
you
you.
didn't eat the leftovers.
I did. I had Indian food for lunch.
Okay, we had some Indian food from last week.
Yes, I always I'll eat the leftovers 2 weeks later. I don't.
She's
I
weird
don't
like
care.
that. Yeah, it'll literally have like fuzziness growing
Not
on
at
it.
all.
And she's
No.
like, I think I can.
He'll
do
be
it."
like, "Oh, this is not the same as if it were canned," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is." If I use my, I use my clasp jars, and I'm like, "It's fine."
Yes, no wasting food. No wasting.
But one thing I was going to say really quick before we move on to the next story, it's really hard when you're thinking about like investing in crypto or something like that, because the infrastructure is just not there to be able to use it. You can't go buy groceries with crypto. You can't go buy groceries with investments. So it's like, I get the thing of investing and putting your money in another place and not depending on the US dollar, but what does somebody do if they need groceries that's all you have?
Right, and that's where, I mean, what I'm talking about is, okay, for how do you protect your family's wealth? Right, there's two things. There's having a cash account, right? We need cash on hand. We've got some cash on hand to be able to live in the society, right? To go and buy certain things. Fortunately, more and more companies are now accepting cryptocurrency. So that's one good thing. But, you live right now, I think the key for crypto, real estate, and precious metals is as a store of value to protect your family's money. Whether it's $1,000, whether it's $100, whether it's $100,000, keeping it out of this corrupt government banking system as a store of value. Basically, what I want to say is take that $1 and put it into a gold version of that dollar, which has sustained itself for 5,000 years in history through all kinds of famine and war. And the same thing is true of crypto now. We've seen that, as Michael Saylor points out, could be the ultimate store of value. Bitcoin could be the ultimate store of value. And as Mark Cuban said last week, he thinks that Ethereum is perhaps the ultimate actual currency, which to replace a US dollar. And Ethereum hit all-time highs this
I don't
weekend.
think we're that far off from being able to use digital currency to buy your groceries. So
It's basically just an infrastructure thing. If somebody made it so that you could use a debit-like card to spend your crypto.
You can.
There is crypto Visa.
Yeah, if you want to use, for instance, if you go to BlockFi, I think I have a link for it. I don't know. I think it's morninginvest.com/coin, I think is the link that we have. Go there. You can actually open an account and get a Visa card that works with crypto. And so you're basically using your crypto to be able to buy groceries and do other things instead of having to use the US dollar.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. Now, I have a card my rewards are crypto. Like as I purchase, I get 3%
Oh, that's
back
cool.
in crypto.
Yeah.
In Bitcoin, actually.
Yeah, crypto.com also has a really good card as well. So those are two. I'm diving in, I'm actually getting my card soon on crypto.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a full video review of that card on my Clayton Morris channel. So if you're interested in investing and learning about what I'm investing in and when I teach people to do, go over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Clayton Morris, where I deep dive specific different investments, and I'll be doing a deep dive on these cards over the next few weeks. So follow me over there for more crypto and investing news.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like the infrastructure is going to have to, you're going to have to reverse engineer the infrastructure in order for people to adopt it, because people can't adopt something new. Like for instance, if it was just like, hey, go get your crypto number and give it to me and we'll exchange. People aren't going to do that. It has to be similar to the system that's already in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.